The jeweler named Jeffrey Wolf shot and killed his wife during a bungled holdup at their Franklin Township jewelry store. Police called the shooting accidental and arrested 5 men for the holdup and murder. But the parents of Brenda Wolf believe her husband should have been held responsible.
Prosecutors say the shooting was accidental and no charges were ever filed against Wolf. 5 other men were tried. The last case ended just a few weeks ago. Brenda Wolf's parents believe the real killer has gone free, and they told their story to Michelle Marsh.
She was very concerned always on being perfect. Everything about her was just right. She was a perfect child.
Gail and George Marks say their daughter Brenda met Jeffrey Wolf while the two lived in Queens.
It was her first boyfriend.
They were together all the time.
But a year before her death, the Marks say Brenda became unhappy and told them the marriage had turned into a cold business partnership centered around the Franklin Township jewelry store they worked in together.
She did tell me she'd never have children with him.
And
They had no sex in their marriage.
The Marks now believe that Jeffrey Wolf planned and carried out the March 1995 murder of their daughter as part of a staged robbery of the store.
There's no way he's going to get away with this. That's it. He is the murderer.
The Marks described Jeff as a fanatical gun collector who was obsessed with buying things and selling them just as quickly.
Has 15 cars in 10 years. New. Anything he sees that he likes, he wants it.
One of the statements Brenda always said to me, "Mommy, what do you think of this? Jeff has disposed of everything in life, but he hasn't disposed of me yet." And the last time she said that 2 weeks before she was murdered.
I'm Michelle Marsh from News Channel 4. Are you Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Yeah. That you could talk to us
about some... Speak to my attorney.
Jeffrey Wolf would not talk to me on camera, and his lawyer did not return repeated phone calls. The Marks are now suing him for the wrongful death of their daughter. In the days after the shooting, the official version of events at the store changed. Jeffrey Wolf buried his wife and told reporters the bullet came from the gun of an armed robber.
And I saw him squeeze the trigger directly at her head and basically killed my wife.
But ballistics tests showed the only weapon fired during the bungled holdup was Wolf's gun. Here's what police say happened. 3 armed robbers entered the store, 2 posing as delivery men, 1 as a customer. Police say the customer vaulted the counter and held Brenda Wolf at gunpoint. The 2 others pushed their delivery box across the counter at Jeffrey Wolf. He grabbed his own gun and fired, killing his wife and wounding the robber next to her. Prosecutors said Wolf was in a state of shock and initially didn't remember pulling the trigger.
This was clearly an accidental shooting. It was a struggle over a gun, and a terrible one at that.
Prosecutors also say Wolf had called a repairman shortly before the robbery. They say if he was involved, he certainly wouldn't have arranged for a witness. 5 men were arrested, and all are in prison. According to prosecutors, the 2 key players were Abram David Gottlieb, a career criminal from Kansas City who masterminded the heist, and his college friend, local dentist Harry Insabella, who helped plot and carry out the robbery. Jeff Wolf told investigators he knew Insabella as a customer, but the Marks said Wolf had an unusual amount of cash in the store and wondered whether he used it for transactions in stolen merchandise.
Back at the store, he once showed us 10 stacks, $1,000 each, under a daybed's cushions.
According to police, Gottlieb's only real occupation is career criminal. Now they've charged him with murder. Allison Camerata reports.
When David Gottlieb left Kansas City, Missouri with 3 accomplices bound for Newark, New Jersey on March 13th, they were going on what you might call a business trip. Police say the problem is Gottlieb's business is armed robbery.
It doesn't appear that he has had any honest employment. He's hooked up with other individuals in the Kansas City, Missouri area, as well as Kansas City, Kansas, and they've been doing a series of burglaries, armed robberies, bank robberies.
Everything that I had was here in this shop, invested into this shop. In a 5-minute time span, it's gone.
Police say Gottlieb cleaned this jeweler in Topeka out of $100,000 worth of jewelry.
Sentenced on fraud charges. Police say Bissell fled his home, leaving behind a suicide note. News Channel 4's Joe Avalar is live at the federal courthouse in Newark with the latest. Joe?
Well, the latest is right now that federal marshals have no idea where Nicholas Bissell is. He has just disappeared, absolutely vanished. Police across the country are looking for him right now. All they know is that he might be in his 1995 dark green Jeep Cherokee, license plate number SNB1. Nicholas Bissell was the disgraced Somerset County prosecutor 2 days away from being sentenced to prison for 30 counts of mail-in tax fraud, perjury, and more. He was under house arrest at his Montgomery Township home until he cut his electronic bracelet and ran.
The bracelet was made of a heavy plastic material, and I cannot tell you as we stand here today how it was cut, but I don't believe it takes superhuman efforts to cut that bracelet, but it immediately issues a signal that indicates that the person has violated the terms of his bail.
But first, Bissell left a note on the kitchen counter.
The note was handwritten. It's very short. It was only about 6 lines long. It purports to relate to suicide, and it expresses a desire to remain in control.
The U.S. attorney said they were going to ask Bissell be sentenced to 6.5 to 10 years in jail. Right now, they're looking for him everywhere.
His access to money is quite limited because of mounting debts and other things. There was not a substantial amount of money for him to have access to.
Police and federal marshals converged on Bissell's home. His wife, who was also convicted of crimes, was there along with their daughters. Bissell had been county prosecutor for 13 years. His neighbor of 25 years told me.
He was very devoted to his job, I know that much. He really was. He was a good prosecutor. He was out all hours of the night. He said drug addicts. He was very devoted to his family. He was a very decent person. I don't know what made him go wrong like this.
Well, one other note, we should tell you that all the pictures we showed you of Bissell were of Bissell clean-shaven. A federal marshal just told me a couple of minutes ago they believe Bissell has recently grown a beard and mustache. I'm Joe Avalar reporting live. Sue, Chuck, back to you.
Thank you. Turns out he wanted to do it his way or no way. He rolled snake eyes at a casino in Laughlin, a town 50 miles south of Las Vegas. U.S. Marshals tracked him down and broke down the door of his room. They tried to talk him into surrendering, but he had a gun and used it on himself. He was dead by the time they got him to a hospital. Mr. Bissell was facing 10 years in jail for skimming over $100,000 from a business he ran, cheating his partners. He cheated on his taxes to hide the profits and abused the power of his office as prosecutor, forcing minor drug suspects to give up thousands in assets.
Many others say Bissell abused his power by throwing his weight around and cutting secret deals with witnesses, which is why many of his drug convictions are now being overturned.
I think it's good they're being overturned because, like I said, he wasn't thinking about what was best for the person, that was involved in whatever the crime may have been. He was thinking about, I think, what would make him look the best.
Back in 1991, Bissell reportedly wanted Franklin police to falsify some police records. When they wouldn't do it, he took over the department, incensing the local PBA so much they even offered their own reward when Bissell was on the run.
Still bitterness, and the reward gave somewhat of a connotation of revenge, and when that occurs, I'm concerned, particularly in law enforcement.
For 13 years, Nicholas Bissell reigned as one of New Jersey's top prosecutors. He loved making headlines, built his reputation pursuing high-profile cases, from drug kingpins to Hollywood stars. We met Nicholas Bissell when he appeared on America's Most Wanted as the prosecutor hunting down Avram David Gottlieb, a fugitive wanted for murder.
He appears to have contacts and connections in various parts of the country.
What no one knew was that Nicholas Bissell was leading a double life. The lawman was an outlaw.
It's not just one offense or just one tax evasion. It's an entire scheme of corrupt conduct during his tenure as county prosecutor.
He thought he was untouchable. It was the king of the hill, and he was the man out in Somerset County, and he made no bones about it, and everybody knew it.
For years, Nicholas Bissell had been playing a dangerous game, intimidating witnesses and coercing defendants into forfeiting assets in exchange for dropped charges. James Giffray was one of his victims.
He had no accountability to anyone.
In 1990, Giffray was arrested on minor drug charges. That's when he says Bissell used his power of prosecution to force him into signing over his assets.
Not only just took my land, it really crushed me. I mean, I had to start all over from the ground up.
The charges against Giffray were dropped, but in 1992, he decided to sue and won. That triggered a federal investigation and the beginning of the end for Nick Bissell. In 1995, Bissell and his wife Barbara, seen here in taped depositions, were indicted on federal charges of embezzlement and tax evasion. Accused of skimming money from a small business he co-owned, Bissell arrogantly denied it.
You've indicated before you don't do that.
Right. Yeah, maybe that would be a better business practice. I'm not going to argue with you about that. I'm not going to say to you that this...
Well, I think my question is...
This is a Wharton School of Business run operation.
No, listen, I'm just...
But the trial evidence was damning, especially this surveillance tape showing Bissell caught in the act of stealing from his business partner.
You ever counted out money, put some in the bag, and then pocketed the rest?
But the videotape didn't lie. A federal jury convicted Bissell and his wife on more than 30 counts of tax evasion, embezzlement, and fraud.
In the rich suburbs and blue-collar towns of Somerset County, Nick Bissell lived with a swagger that said he was the law.
People were afraid of him, and nobody wanted to complain about him because they were afraid about the power he had.
Defense lawyer Tom Paddocks was also a friend.
He loved to be in charge, loved to have people around him that were beholden to him.